So this past week, we saw a big victory in New York when it came to their primaries, as a lot of progressives and DSA members won when it came to their races against establishment Democrats that really show the shift that is going on within the Democratic base. And they are running scared. The Democratic establishment is running scared. Hakeem Jeffries definitely was trying to downplay a crucial part of what played into this success, trying to say that Israel did not play a factor into it. It was like, well, Richie Torres won his election, which very unfortunate that Richie Torres has any semblance of power. Hopefully we can get him next time. But who knows, maybe by saying that, people will be like, oh, you're racist for attacking this black man who is insanely pro-Israel, but weirdly enough hasn't been talking about Israel all that much following his Adam Freeland interview, staying very silent that Richie Torres has after being lambasted following his interview with Adam Freeland, that, so many people online was just like, oh, it's not going to do anything for him, but being very silent, he's trying to stay in the shadows when it comes to that. But with this shift, I don't think he's long for this political world. But getting back to the primaries as a whole, this was a big victory for leftists, for the DSA, for progressives in general. And, it's got me on that hopium. It's got me on that hope core. I'm, smelling the roses, but this doesn't stop here. Like, this isn't the end game, just getting these people in a position of power. There's definitely a bigger fight that has to be fought across the board, because what this showed is that when you run in a blue state, when you run real, true progressives who know how to message, who know how to get out there, who know how to organize, who know how to really speak to the real issues that the Democratic base resonates with, it does not matter the attacks that come against you, as long as you are true to yourself, as long as you respond to them well. I mean, we've been seeing that with the likes of Graham Plattner, which I know some people are going to get on me about. I'm not like a ride or die Grammer. I'm not a graham cracker, okay? I'm a cracker, but not a graham cracker. But, to me, it's just like, there's a lot of stuff from his history that I'm just like, we need to look at it. And not so much like the stuff that they've been trying to come out with his like relationships where I was like, oh, he just wasn't a great boyfriend, whatever. But like his mercenary work, like this, that sort of stuff. I'm just like, that, I'm raising an eyebrow to that. But the fact that they are trying so hard, like both Democratic establishment, the do-nothing Democrats and the Republicans are trying to like team up to go after him. It's like, you kind of force me to have to defend him, even though like, yeah, I'm very skeptical of him. I'm hoping he's not just another John Fetterman. I'm really hoping that, but like, you're kind of forcing people to defend him when these people are so desperate to find anything and everything to go after him for. But again, oh my God, we're again diverging from the actual topic, Jesus. But it all really ties in together, because even though Graham Plattner, I believe, is not a part of the DSA, he is a part of a very progressive movement that is going around the country. We also have Abdul Al-Sayed, who I hope I'm not jinxing it. Who knows, campaigning alongside Hassan Piker, it really hurt his numbers, didn't it? And, that also played a factor into these New York primaries, even though I don't feel like they were that much of a topic when it came to it, because like Hassan was very much a part of, pushing this forward, was very much focusing on these primaries because he saw it for what it was. It was a sign of change within the left. And hopefully this momentum can carry on to other blue states, to some swing states, maybe even to some red states, hopefully. We're hoping. I feel like that's going to be a very difficult battle, but if you are slowly able to get more victories in these maybe more light blue states, maybe some of these more purple, maybe some of these like what's a good blue-purple combination? Indigo. Some of these more indigo states, then you reach into the pink, into the red. You gotta slowly, you gotta work over time. Maybe not slowly. We need to step this up. But like, things are only getting worse before they're getting better. But this definitely, it makes me hopeful. It makes me hopeful for the future, which isn't something you get a lot nowadays, is it? Like I said, it feels like it only gets worse before it gets better, but like this definitely makes me feel better in terms of change being possible. But I also want to talk about the response, not just to these victories, because like the response to these victories are pretty obvious. It's mostly just mainstream media as a whole. I mean, mainstream media, whether it's Fox News, CNN, MS Now, it's just it all just kind of blends together at this point, doesn't it? Like there's no real diversity anymore, is there? Because everything's owned by the same few people. The Ellisons are just trying to buy up everything left, right, and center to be Trump's little media mandate of being like, no dissent, nothing. Just everyone said to love me. Everyone, just look at this USC event that I did. It's so great. Mainstream media is very much just dying out, left, right, and center. It really is, because it's all just this giant melting pot of the same bullshit regurgitated on different networks. That's it. But what happened with these races? There's two instances that I wanted to cover, with the two bigger ones, the ones with Daria Liza and Brad Lander, and the response to that, because like, again, these were Democrats that they were running against, that they were, primarying. But like the response that these representatives had to Daria and Brad it was insane. Starting off with Brad, because I think this is just kind of a funny one. Brad Lander, a Jewish man, was going against Dan Goldman. Both of them are Jewish. I believe Goldman is Jewish, and they tried to make his campaign all about like fighting against anti-Semitism, which is just hilarious. I believe the district he even is representative. I believe it's mostly Jewish. Like, let me look it up real quick. Yeah, so based on this map here, it literally says the most Jewish district, New York's 10th, has as many Jews as the 170 least Jewish CDs combined. So it literally has a giant Jewish population, but they were trying to make this about anti-Semitism. They were also trying to do this they were also trying to push this story as a sign of anti-Semitism against Dan Goldman. Again, ran unseated by Brad Lander, another Jewish man who just so happens to be anti-Zionist. Dan Goldman got banned from a coffee shop in New York, and they're trying to say, oh, it was because of anti-Semitism. He got banned because of anti-Semitism. When really all it is that he's a Zionist. A New York City coffee shop banned a Jewish congressman from the establishment on Sunday, stating that they don't serve racist, fascist, homophobes, genocide enablers. After Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman visited the cafe with his child. And by the way, it's not like, oh, they kicked him out or they banned him. He went in, got a coffee, and then left. And then after which they realized who it was, and they were like, you're banned from ever entering in here. And they gave him a refund. The shop claims to have issued Goldman an unrequested refund for $9.82, saying, we issued you a refund. We don't need your money. It's probably coming from AIPAC anyways. But yeah, they were just like, oh, it's anti-Semitism. You're doing this for anti-Semitism, even though the person, again, who beat him in the primaries is also a Jewish man. He just so happens to be anti-Israel. And I don't know if I already talked about it or not, but like, even Brad Lander is like, he is anti-Zionist. Like, he is very much anti-Zionist. He used to be in the DSA, but he left the DSA after October 7th, but like he still is very much anti-Zionist, but he has some contradictory points of it. Like, I believe he's anti-BDS, and I don't know why. No. But when it came to the Daria Liza campaign, something that the incumbent, Espiat, or at least one of his senior advisors, was trying to do was make it about race. Now, when it came to the district that Daria Liza was campaigning in, the district itself very much has a big Dominican population, or at the very least, it has a very big Hispanic population. But something that became a very stupid part of the campaign was Espiat's team trying to push this narrative that Daria Liza wasn't, as she identifies, an Afro-Dominican and Muslim, but instead she's really just Haitian. So from what we have from this article here, a former senior advisor for Representative Adriano Espiat has made racist comments about his primary challenger, Daria Liza, in Spanish language media. I don't know how to pronounce this name, so I'm just going to say the advisor. The advisor, who is currently on unpaid leave from Espiat's congressional office, accused Daria Liza, who identifies as Afro-Dominican and Muslim, of working with Mayor Zohran Mamdani to replace Dominicans in Washington Heights with Muslims and Haitians. It really just goes to show, like, they did this with Zohran too, during, the mayoral race. These Democrats, these supposedly left-wing figures, are so quick. They are so quick to be racist on a dime. And in this case, it's another person of color. It's like, oh, the person running against me is a person of color. Oh, like, well, what if I was racist? Well, as if that's gonna help. Like, they did that with Zohran, where because they did all these attacks because he is Muslim, of being like, oh, when he was like eating food with his hands or something like that, they were like, oh, does he not know how to use a fork? Is he some sort of animal? And like, obviously calling him a terrorist supporter, just insane. But with this one, it's just like, they're like, oh, she's lying. She's not Dominican. She's Haitian. It's just so insane. It's so insane, like, how blatantly racist they are fine with being when it comes to people who are more to the left than them. It's insane. And obviously it didn't work. But like, still, and here's the thing, some people point out, well, this was just an advisor and he went on unpaid leave after that. The damage was already done. Honestly, if an advisor is willing to openly say that, it does kind of raise some eyebrows of being like, well, is this something that you guys been saying behind closed doors? Or is this just him going rogue? And Espiat did not really do anything to try to extinguish the flames when it came to that. He really didn't. So like, using this very charged racist language of like, you're faking your background so you can seem more in line with the population here with no proof. It's just insane. They also were bringing up her social media posts back in the day before she even had any semblance of political power, which was just gross. They brought up a post about her where she was like joking about interracial relationships and shit like that. It's like, you can't tell jokes anymore. That's the thing. And again, this was way before she had any semblance of political power. And she has, stated over and over again that those aren't really her beliefs. She was just like, she's apologized for them over and over again. And they're just like, but what about that? Even though like, it's just so funny because like, they don't care about that. It really shows that like, woke 1.0 is dead. Like you can't do this stuff anymore. People don't care. Like, people are just so tired because that sort of stuff does not really result in any big changes. Like, they've seen that. They've seen what has happened when people in positions of power face even a little bit of scrutiny for some problematic stuff that they have said and done, and they saw that it resulted in nothing. So instead of just trying to change the optics or trying to just change it at face value, they want actual real change. So they're not going to care if years ago, before this woman had any sort of political office, if she was making some jokes about interracial relationships. They don't care. They just want someone who will actually fight for them. They also try to go after her for saying fuck Kamala Harris, which, like, do you want her to be unpopular? And here's the thing, there are still some fucking Kamala riders out there. And you know what? We'll get them out at some point. And when I mean get them, I mean we will show them that there is a better road to go after before anyone tries to spin that, all right? The vote blue no matter who, people, will show them, like, you don't have to. You don't have to vote blue no matter who. Like, sometimes you can just pick the better option out of the blue, even if they're not the bigger name. Maybe you should actually listen to the policies that they are coming out with, that they are in support of, and be like, you know what? I'm in more line with that than this other guy or this other person who is saying, like, you know what? We're not really going to do much. Who has bad policies. And Something that's come out of this victory is I saw that like Gavin Newsom was trying to kind of piggyback off it. I don't think that's gonna work. Like this victory right here makes me hopeful that a Gavin Newsom run for president is just not gonna work, at least in terms of the Democratic primaries. Like I really hope that he is not the one who has to go against whoever Trump lines up, whether it's Rubio, whether it's Vance, whether it's himself, because he keeps on saying, he keeps on joking, maybe I'll run again, who knows? Maybe we get rid of the term limits and I can spend the next 4 years falling apart mentally as I'm doing right now. Like, oh my god. Because regardless of who he faces off against, even if he wins, it's not a good sign. Even if he wins, it's not a good sign. It's like, oh, people are still just fine with someone being mediocre. Like, they don't want change. They just want someone who will put up this curtain, who will, like, put on this face of, like, everything is fine, even though it's definitely not, because people's lives are not getting better. But yeah, that's what I had to say about this. I think it's, again, I think it's a great victory. I think it's a great sign of the tides changing, but this is just the start. Again, it was a victory in New York City, a very blue area. But again, it shows that within the blue area, within the left, there is this want for change. And I think you see that across the board, whether, you know, someone's a centrist, someone's a conservative. There are people out there who desperately want change. There are people who, you know, even if they're conservative, will bite the bullet if they feel like there is someone out there who wants to make life better for them. And I'm all for it. You know, I'm on that hopium, I'm on that hope core, but I'm still a realist in a sense of like this sole victory is not enough. We need more, and it's going to be a very hard fight throughout. And it's going to take some time too. Hopefully we can see that before 2028. Hopefully we can see some really big change before then, because if not, we might either have to settle for President Newsom, or we will be under the tyranny of Vance or Rubio. Really, I don't know. I honestly do not think Vance will be picked, if I'm going to be honest. Honestly, like, if Vance is picked, it's still not great. But I feel like in that sense, anyone against him will have a way bigger chance of winning. Rubio, I'm a little unsure of. But like Vance, I think that will be a dog walk. Maybe I'm being a little too hopeful there. But I think he's just so unlikable. He really is just so unlikable. But yeah, that's all I really got to say there. Thank you all for watching. Again, really hopeful for the future, but it's still going to be a very long fight to see any real meaningful change across the country. But it's a good step. It's a good step.